Welcome to the Upland Nation podcast. I'm Scott Linden. Glad you could join me on our weekly venture into the woods and fields, sometimes the water, and really fascinating and interesting pair of guests this week. We venture back to Kansas City and the Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic and talk with, well, the esteemed leader of Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever, Marilyn Vetter, joins me. And her husband, Clyde Vetter, from Sharpshooters Kennels, is also on the bill this week. It was fun to finally get together with both of them live and in person, and I think you'll enjoy the insights from both of them. Marilyn will bring us kind of the insider information from the top of the heap at Pheasants Forever and Quail Classic. We'll talk a little conservation, and she'll bring us up to date on some of the stuff that's going on there. And then Clyde takes over and shares some of his wisdom and insights on dog training. And this guy knows what he's talking about. Probably handled more NAVHDA Prize 1 utility dogs than anybody else in the history of the organization, among other things. So don't go away. In our Fix It segment, got to thinking about surrogates for live birds when you're teaching steadiness. Even asked that on the social media. We'll give you some suggestions on those. We're digging deep into the toy box. Yeah, you'll get a chance to win that 4-pack of pointer shotguns. And social media discussion galore. I asked you what your best single sentence of advice for a new dog trainer would be. Oh, I can't wait to share these with you. So many we might have to do it twice. It's all made possible by Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School, TrulockChokes tubes, Purina Pro Plan Sport dog food, Sage and Breaker gun care products, RuffLand dog kennels, pointer shotguns, and HiViz sights. Well, around here, training is all about more miles. The national forest closure behind our place means I'm looking for new places to do that. And I found a couple good ones with some really great open country. Discovered the highest spot in the entire neighborhood. Incredible view, about 9 mountain peaks from up there. You know the feeling? When you can stand in one spot, watch your dog run around 3/4 of a mile away, and see all those mountain peaks. Still snow on them here, and will be for a long time. So we're putting on the miles, and I'm carrying a little bit more weight in my pack just to get ready for chucker season. You are thinking training as well, of various sorts. So I thought we'd start the list, and it's a long list, one of the most popular social media questions I've asked in a long time. Thank you all. I can't get to you all right now, but I will try and come back to this one because it is so useful. Thank you for helping out, everybody. Your best single sentence of advice for new dog trainers. Hey, and maybe the rest of us too. Harry Hill says, if you get frustrated trying to train something, stop, go back to what the dog knows, and quit for the day. Always end on a positive note. Remember, repetition is boring. Absolutely. My rule is 2. Thank you, George Quinlan, for reminding me never to be a greedy owner and overtrain. Brian McCafferty, don't screw up God-given talent. Isn't that the truth? Thank you, Brian. John Salfisberg, this could be tattooed on our left forearm. Give live birds to a pup, the sooner the better. Yep. Boy, I saw a great video of a little tiny guy, still not going to his forever home yet, carrying a quail around. So proud and prancing as well as he can on those little stubby short hair legs. Donald Henderson says it all in 2 words: be patient. Randy Gazda, Sounds like hard-won wisdom. The off-season is long. Train accordingly. Yeah. Patrick McDonough. I think that's how I'd say it. Just roll with it. Let the dog train you, says Karen Chupa Brueggemann. Yeah, absolutely. There are times. But there are times when we need to guide that dog. And maybe it's not just in training. You know, I used to argue with my dogs about what direction to go in the field. Once we're in the field and the dog is on the ground, his nose is way better than ours. So I've learned that lesson, and thank you for the reminder, Karen. Andy McCormick, good to hear from you. Thank you for your wonderful prize package, that 4-pack of pointer shotguns. Obedience first. Yeah, let your dog sleep in your room, too. Yeah, run them year-round. Yes. Amen to all of those and so many more. Frank Luxa Jr., thanks. Hope all is well there. Boy, I remember those days. The training takes as long as it takes. Don't be in a hurry and learn to read your dog. George Cummins, who else would bring up positive reinforcement? Good advice. Thank you so much. Trust the dog, Lance Larson, absolutely. Rufus Frederick, my dog was great in spite of me, not because of me. Your dog will teach you far more than you will ever teach your dog. Hey, what a great title for... Oh, I did write that book. Thank you all. Almost 100 more. So we'll come back. We'll revisit that one at some point in time, because so much of that wisdom really ought to be on a bunch of bumper stickers, and we ought to put them all over our truck bumpers. That portion of the program brought to you by sageandbreaker.com. Father's Day sale. Take advantage right now. Save on cleaning bundles, all the soft goods, you know, the range bags and the shotgun cases, that sort of thing. And now's the time to stock up on CLP, bore cleaning solvent, firearms grease, you name it. Go to sageandbreaker.com for their very rare Father's Day sale. No, I don't mean, they don't do a lot of sales. This is the one to take advantage of. sageandbreaker.com. And then see what you've been missing at HivVizSites.com. Yeah, you just need a little help. Maybe you're doing everything else right. The mount is right. The foot position is right. You even got the right caliber shotgun. I mean, the right gauge of shotgun or caliber, if you like those 410s. But you need to be able to see both the muzzle of your shotgun and the flying target at the same time. Well, that's what those interlocking light pipe systems from HiViz sights help you do. Watch the video, see what I mean. Learn more at HivizSights.com. You know, if you live life right, you get a gift every once in a while. And here we are at the National Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic. They're just about ready to open the doors, I think. So we have a little bit quieter setting for this wonderful special surprise interview. First off, Clyde Vetter, welcome from Sharpshooters Kennels.
Thank you for having me.
And then there's somebody to your left, my right, and if you are listening in stereo, she's on your right speaker. Marilyn Vetter. Marilyn, I'm so glad you could make it here. As the president and CEO of both of those organizations, it's always fun to see you. And in this context where the adrenaline is so... It's spilled out on the floor in places. Welcome to the Upland Nation podcast, both of you.
Thank you.
It's a fun event. It's a productive event for many reasons. Marilyn, while we've got you, and I know you're going to have to leave in a few minutes, but what's the upshot for the leader of the organization so far here at Pheasant Fest and the Quail Classic?
Well, it's our third time in Kansas City, and one of the benefits of us moving around the country a bit is that as we talk about our strategic plan, our fourth strategic priority is to engage and expand our audience. And by moving, we get to do just that. And we get a whole new group of people that haven't been here before. And I have met hundreds of people have said, I've never been to Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic before. And quite honestly, I'm not an upland hunter. I didn't know anything about it. We had someone at our table last night that they were coming because they were an exhibitor, but they had never been hunting before. And now they're after walking the aisles, after seeing dogs, and quite honestly, getting to know our upland nation, our community, they're like, these are our people. How did we not find them before? And they want to get a dog. They want to start hunting. They want to go out with people. They are addicted, and they haven't even been out there.
It is the ultimate bird camp.
It is.
We talk about, when I survey my followers every year, what are the important things about bird hunting? Dogs. What a dumb question. Beautiful places, and the people we get to hang around with.
Yeah. It's so much more than going out and bagging something. It's, some of the things that are happening right now with our social media world where you're seeing these tailgates full of birds and all that, I think it presents the wrong message as who we are. If you look at photos and pictures of what Marilyn and I do, it's always going to be a picture of what's in the background. We may have one bird in our hand with our dogs at our size, and where the dogs aren't grinning because they're panting, but a smile is on our face because we're enjoying the scenery, the environment. There's so much more than what's going in our bag.
Thank you, Clyde. That is one of my pet peeves, and we can deal with that in two ways. And I choose the high road.
Absolutely.
Invite people to take pictures of things other than body piles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And maybe we ought to have a photo contest.
Yes.
There you go.
A non-bird bird contest. I think it triggers something in us that's much more primal. And I think that's one of the things that people, when they finally experience it, say, now I get it. I understand. Even if I think about how many couples we know where only one of them hunts, but the other walks with, and they get just as much out of it. It's the dirty boots, it's the walk in the prairies, it's the long, hot day, but you're spending it, with community, whether it's your family or your friends, but you are returning to part of your evolutionary past you didn't even know you experienced because they're not doing it every day. They're not behind their laptop at the moment. And I think people don't understand when they don't have that in their life how much they actually need it to really kind of cleanse the soul a bit.
You sound like you studied this because this is it. You have just hit on you've ticked every box, Marilyn. It is, especially that last part, they don't know what they're missing until they experience it. Right. And it may be different for everybody, but there's something in it for everybody. Mm-hmm. I want to we can't go without expecting to harvest something. Ortega Y Gasset said something about, basically he said, you got to have the prospect of actually killing something or you're not hunting. And there is that. But it's one of many things that we're supposed to be doing out there, or we get to do out there, including playing with dogs.
For sure.
Clyde, we're going to get deeper into this in the second half of the discussion. But to you, when you're out in a hunting context, you're an incredible trainer, and we'll get deeper into that too. But in a hunting context, what's that connection between you and the dog? Describe it.
Well, and that's the hard part is, so I've had other trainers call me up, and I always talked about being hooked up. That's my verbal language on it, is being hooked up. And what being hooked up is, where you both are reading each other's mind and you start veering right, and the dog sees you and it's like, oh, okay, let's head over that way. And if I see dogs starting to get a little desperate, and they start heading off in another direction, and they're starting to look birdie, and they have this instinct of going somewhere, and you're like, okay, I trust him, I'm going to follow him now, and then we start producing birds. But being out there and just being at one with that dog, giving a whistle, and they turn, and you're just, the cooperation between you two is just, I've tried to put a word to it for many, many years now. And I had a trainer call me up once, and he had only been doing it for, like maybe 5 to 8 years, something like that. And I talked about being hooked up when you're getting ready for the Invitational. And he's like, oh, yeah, I know what you mean. I said, no, you don't. And he says, well, what do you mean? I said, you haven't been doing it long enough.
Yeah.
I said, I didn't get hooked up, really, truly hooked up with dogs until maybe my 15th to 18th year.
Yeah.
That's when I've developed my program enough and worked with dogs enough to where I started becoming more intellectually involved with them. And a lot of that comes with not so much training and reacting to what the dog has done. You're reacting to what they're mentally going to do. And that's the key, and that's what I do in all my training seminars, is not reacting to what they're doing to make a correction. You want to stop the reaction prior to it being done, and that's when you start thinking and watching, how do I correct it mentally more so than physically? And so it's hard for me to find a word, and maybe one day I'll get it. I'll have that special word for it, truly being hooked up with a dog.
Yeah, the simple one, and maybe I'm not addressing your feeling, but I use the term mental telepathy. Mm-hmm. But somebody had a better feeling about this. We both know Nancy Annisfield.
Yep.
Nancy followed us on a TV shoot many years back, and at the end of the first day, she said, it would be me and 2 camera guys, and she said, you guys are like a jazz combo. You don't say anything. You just look at each other, and then that happens, and then that happens. I said, don't forget the main ingredient, and that is the dog.
Yeah.
So we're trying to mind meld with the dog to a degree. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
We try and hunt silently as much as we can. In fact, Marilyn and I have these visual cues where even we're hunting telepathy too, because we look at each other and I'll just nod my head or point this way and do these little things, and we just we meander through the prairie quietly with our dogs, and it's just, we had a hunt this fall together.
I was going to bring that up.
Well, I'll let you bring it up.
So we have 2 9-year-old girls, and they're really in their prime. And we were talking about it before we went out in the field that day, that it was one of our last days of our upland season until we were going to go to Arizona. And we were in central Montana, and I said, God, after 10, it kind of changes a lot. Their bodies change. You never know. Every day with our dogs is a gift, but after 10, it's really a gift. And it was a special day. We'd had a lot of hot days, and we finally had a cool day. And we walked for about 2.5 hours. We flushed huns, sharptails, sage grouse. We even saw some pheasants. It wasn't pheasant season yet. We saw everything. The dog work was flawless, which I don't almost ever say. And our work together was fabulous. And we walked out of the field, and I didn't know if I was more happy than sad, because I also thought it was the most perfect scenario we'd ever. The only thing we said the whole time was fetch. Never had to say whoa. I
got to write this down. This is a story. I got to write that story.
That was spectacular.
No, we had I think 3 big coveys of sharptail pointed. We had 3 coveys of huns, and I think we had 4 smaller coveys of sage grouse. And it was pointing back, and it was just spectacular. And Marilyn and I kept looking at each other, not saying anything, just looking at each other like, damn, are you taking this in?
Yeah.
Because I am.
Yeah.
And I'm going to actually get, teary-eyed now about it, but you're out there with my best friend, my wife of, mid-30 years.
A few years.
Yeah. And
we don't have to get a date.
We're out there, and the weather's beautiful. You got mountains in the background. You're hunting in the sage, and you try and ignore the snakes that might be there. And we're just walking through there, and we both get back, and I don't know that we even said anything to each other for a little bit, and because you're just taking it in.
Yeah.
And while there was times in that particular hunt where I don't even think either of us shot, because we're just like, it was so spiritual that it's like, and I hate to sound corny like that, but for us, we've been doing this for so many years. For us anymore, I've trained so many dogs, I've had my hands on so many dogs, and we've hunted so much that it's not about, like I said, putting something in the bag. If I take a picture So Marilyn was walking. I said, you just walk in and what flushes and we get. Trish was on point, Stella's backing, Marilyn's up walking, and I'm just watching this go down. I don't need to shoot anything.
Yep.
I'm enjoying watching her go up with her dogs, our dogs, and just I'm taking it in. And that's what I think we forget.
Be in the moment.
I'm sorry, I've got goose pimples. And I think the best way to relive an experience like that is not to show pictures. It's to tell this story.
Yeah, it's we forget about it.
It was
that's what campfires were invented for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think we've told that story to almost everyone we've met since then. It was like hosting a master class. It really. I can't imagine ever having a better hunt.
You know, while I got you both, and I promise we're going to talk a little bit more about Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever before you leave, but I want to riff on this for a moment because many of us don't hunt with a spouse. Mm-hmm. We should we should etch this in concrete, what you just described, because it's what I come home and she says, well, why do you go, you only brought blank birds, probably usually no birds. Why do you do this? And you just look at her and you just shake your head and say, you don't understand. And in fact, I saw it on a sweatshirt yesterday. It was a wire hair sweatshirt, and it said, if you have to ask, you don't understand. And there's some of that to it. But what else is there to it, Marilyn, that really, I don't know if you can top that. I mean, what do you do for an encore after that story?
Well, I think probably because, no, the dogs are my day job.
Yeah.
Never have been. They've always been my hobby. My hobby that
Real
takes up the rest of the hours of my days. But we've done it all together.
Yeah.
So we train together. We trial together.
Yeah.
We support each other. I mean, obviously, Clyde's the top trainer. I'm a hobbyist by far. But we also raise our puppies together.
Yeah.
And I would tell you, that is probably what transitioned our connection to our dogs more than anything. When I think about seeing generations of dogs that carry traits that we desire, and you see that, you start seeing that very early. You start seeing that 3 weeks old. And it's so subtle, but because we've been doing it so long, we know. People always say, like, how do you know the best puppy in the litter? Well, first of all, they should all be great, especially if you're line breeding.
Right.
But we know what to look for. It's the curious puppy that tries to conquer their current problem, which is, how the hell do I get out of this whelping box? And it's funny. We watch each other. We use as much telepathy with each other as we do with our dogs.
I hope so.
And we have, I think, because we've built such a bond over our dogs, and quite honestly, our best friends in the world all come from this space, that it is our life.
Yeah. We're going to talk more about exactly that once you part ways with us, Marilyn. And so before that happens, I want you to, here's your chance to tell us some of the things that we need to know, particularly in the last few months, or accomplishments, if you will, of the organizations. But by the way, congratulations, 20th anniversary for Quail Forever. You know, for many, many years, your predecessor and I would have one Irish whiskey together at this event. And all I do is pull on his coat about taking over that other organization. And, you know, the Quail guys need what you guys are doing. Mm-hmm. And, boy, was I happy when it happened. So congratulations on the 20th anniversary. Give us a milestone or two in that regard. 20 years ago, Quail Forever was formed.
202 chapters across the Quail region in 32 states. We have about 200 farm bill biologists in the Quail range. Quite honestly, half of our organization is now dedicated to Quail Forever, and half is dedicated to Pheasants Forever. Those farm bill biologists have done 147,000 projects on private lands, impacting 7 million acres of the Quail region. And that's part of our almost 29 million acres across the country of impact on upland habitat that transforms all of those landscapes for all of us.
That's the 30,000-foot viewpoint. Why should I become a member of Quail Forever? What am I going to get out of it?
So there's two parts to that. I'm going to get in my soapbox just a little bit.
You may.
If you are any kind of hunter, whether you're a deer hunter, you're a duck hunter, you're an upland hunter, I believe that all of us should have a sense of responsibility for that. If your kids are in soccer, you're supporting those soccer organizations. If you're going to be an upland hunter, you need to be cognizant of the world around you, that we need to be protecting our public lands. We need to be cognizant about protecting our hunting heritage. That's what these organizations do. They focus on the land that we want to use and the right for us to use it. So, and they're at the same time, we have boots on the ground. We have 350 farm bill biologists and habitat specialists and teams that are actually doing work on public and private lands to restore and impact upland habitat. So, as a sense of responsibility, I think it's important. It's $35 a year. That's quite honestly, a box and a half of shells anymore.
No,
if you find them on
less
sale.
than I spent on drinks last night.
And so what you get out of it is, you build a community, especially if you join a chapter in your area. You get, whether you join Pheasants Forever or Quail Forever, you get a spectacular publication, we believe. I'm a little biased, of course. But I think most importantly, it keeps you updated on what's happening. It teaches you a lot. You think about Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic. We have 4 stages operate all day, every day, all 3 days, and every one of them is an educational seminar. So you come here, you get into the event for $15, and you can learn all you want about, from the quail stage to the public land stage to habitat to the Women on the Wing Lounge. You learn your trade, you learn your hobby. But I think probably what most people care about is the conservation part and the community part.
Yeah. We got 2 minutes left in your part, and then you have to go do something much more important than this, I'm sure. But if you had to top line it on the two organizations together and what you're going to be trying to accomplish next that's global in nature, without having to kill me afterwards. Marilyn Vetter, CEO, President, Pheasants Forever, Quail Forever. What should we watch for in the next year or two?
So our strategic plan goes out to 2026.
Okay.
So our next one will go to 2030. And so we're starting to lay that foundation for that. I will tell you that the team has some internal trade, some metrics that they're looking for.
Yeah.
We have a big goal ahead of us. We want to be 900 chapters by the end of that 2030. We want to probably impact maybe by then 35, 40 million acres of land. That actually should be pretty darn achievable. We're doing 2.5 million acres right now. Hopefully there's not a wholesale shift at the national level that would change that. Quite honestly, it could be 50 million by then.
Yeah.
Because the growth has been incredibly exponential. If I dreamt big, I'd say we should be 200,000 members by then. And that should, with 900 chapters, that should be pretty darn achievable. We had a high water mark in February at 155,000.
Wow.
That is an all-time high for these two organizations. And what we're seeing in the growth in Quail Forever, that should be pretty darn achievable. And if we're sandbagging, we'll up those numbers before we get there.
Love it. I'll put in my vote, and I will buy an Irish after the show. We could start
Okay.
that tradition. If you will do it again, your predecessor would hear it from me every year. Have an event for the quail guys out west someday. A miniature this or something, maybe something totally different. But there's my vote. I have one chance. I'm on my soapbox. Marilyn Vetter, I'm so glad you could make it. We almost didn't pull it together. And
well, thank you.
You're very kind to have taken that time out of your schedule. It's crazy out here, and thank you so much for being part of the Upland Nation podcast.
And I appreciate all you're doing actually for our Upland Nation and our Upland community.
I'm doing my part, but you're doing a much bigger part. We'll be back with Clyde Vetter, and we'll be talking puppies in particular and how to choose them right after this break. If you don't have live birds, what you going to use? I got some suggestions. And then your chance to win that 4-pack of pointer shotguns in the Fur Feathers Friends sweepstakes. It's all coming up after a word from Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School. I talk about how the instructors at Mid-Valley are also all hunters, and that's critical. But also, when it comes to shopping for a new shotgun. That's critical. Only a great shooter / hunter will know exactly what might be of value to you in a new shotgun. So call my friend Dave Fiedler. This guy's the guru. He knows guns and hunting. He also has a great stock. The inventory is very strong, especially in sub-gauges. And if you need something that's hard to get, Dave may have a line on that as well. Go to midvalleyclays.com, give Dave a call, tell him I sent you. And Flick, especially as he's adding more miles this time of year, needs all the nutrition he can get. High protein, 100% balanced. For highly active dogs, that is Pro Plan Sport from Purina. 30% protein, 20% fat, exactly the right ratios to fuel your dog's energy throughout the season and the off-season. Tastes great, he says. Try it for yourself. Okay, have your dog try it for yourself. Go to ProPlansport.com. ProPlansport.com. Welcome back to the National Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic. We're here in Kansas City, Missouri. Thank you again, Marilyn, for joining us for the first half of this. With me now, some would describe him as her better half, but he would describe her as his better half. Clyde
she's
Vetter.
More than my better half.
Sharpshooters Kennels. You know, it's funny. This world is smaller and smaller, and you two are a microcosm of this whole thing. Because everybody I talk to knows somebody who has a dog breeder over there and a puppy over there, and their cousin is doing this. Clyde, what's your takeaway from an event like this?
Well, it's absolutely amazing because, you know, everybody says we're walking down all these aisles and everybody's like, do you know everybody? And, you know, I've done hundreds of seminars throughout North America for 30 years. And I talk to, like currently right now, I'm getting 3 to 5 puppy phone calls or emails a day.
Wow.
And I don't have staff anymore because I'm trying to slowly, I'm getting older. I'm not really old. I'm 56.
You're not really old.
But I'm trying to slow down a little bit because for years I was running dogs in the Invitational every year, which is late September, right? And everybody, it's no secret, my passion is prairie birds.
Yeah.
Sharp-tailed grouse, prairie chickens. Oh. And the first 3 weeks or 4 weeks of that, I'm missing it.
I hear you.
And so at least now, you know, growing up in North Dakota, that's where my roots lied, and that's what I grew up doing, is sharp-tail, and along with many other birds, obviously. But that was kind of my passion. And so running through here, you're meeting so many people, but the energy level here, like you said, is incredible. The people that you see, I'm getting texts, hey, where are you? And I'm like, why, what do you need? Well, I have so-and-so here. They say have a dog from, you know, this breeder, and they wanted to talk to you because somebody told them that they wanted, like yesterday, Dr. Matt Nichols, who's a good client of mine, he's bought a few dogs for me and been very successful in both his business and with the dogs. And he had me train his first couple, and then I ran his other couple as well. And then he came up and trained, and now he's a great trainer himself. And he's like, I got this lady here that has this dog with some of your lines, and a good friend of hers said that they were going to breed to this Creed dog. She knows nothing about it, but she didn't know who he was talking about. So I ended up meeting her. I knew the exact breeding that her dog was out of. You know, we just worked the pedigree backwards. And so, you know, we got to put a face with it. And she was a veterinarian as well. So it was really cool because you meet all these people. She was from Oklahoma. And so you get to put a face with all these names of somebody that might be calling you. And it's just, the energy here, the camaraderie. Yeah. There's no egos floating around. I mean, I'm sure there's one or two.
I think I met them.
But the camaraderie, the relationships that you build, and I'm going to just reiterate, too, with Marilyn, I mean, this whole PFQF crew, all her employees, and I have had so many people tell me that they can't believe how friendly everybody is. Her staff is they're absolutely amazing. And I think why they love her so much too is she's one of them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
she gets down in the wallers with them when it need to be, and they know she's got her back. But that's why everybody here is just it's a family. This is one big family.
Okay, that segment we'll frame it, and you can give it to her for your wedding anniversary. I can't think of a better gift.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's skip ahead a little bit because Sharpshooters Kennels and Clyde Vetter are probably, I think I say this with total confidence, probably the most placed NAVHDA breeder/trainer program around. In the North American Versatile Hunting Dog Association, there are more dogs placing, and that's the wrong term. That's a trial term. I apologize. Passing those massive, high-stress, complicated utility and invitational tests. Let's just leave it at that. You're pretty good at what you do.
We've been blessed. But you know, we didn't do it ourselves. We knew the feat that we took on was going to be complicated.
Yeah.
And my goal was always to be the best at what I could be. And you know, a little story. I had a gentleman come up to me yesterday, and he says he had a couple other dogs, and then he ended up getting a dog from a couple of my clients. So he's gotten my lines now, and he was like, I can't believe the difference. And he's like, my goal someday is to be better than you. And I said, good for you.
Yeah, then I would say, nice
I said,
try.
I love it. No, you know, I that was me 30-some years ago.
Yeah.
I wanted to conquer the world, you know, and my parents always looked at me like, okay, yeah, buddy, go ahead, you know.
Yeah.
And so I took that as a challenge. But yeah, it took an army to get to where we're at. So we've got, and that's where we've built in a lot of great relationships. I've given away a lot of puppies to people that I knew were really talented. They were looking for a dog. I knew they were talented trainers. I could mention several names, and they know who they are.
Yeah.
Where I've given them puppies, and they've taken them all the way through the invitational. And then I'm like, you just give me a puppy back someday, or you give me a stud fee back someday. We'll work something out. I'll get my return at the end of the day somewhere, somehow.
Yeah, kind of like a wise guy, you know. You owe me now,
Yeah,
and I'll let you know when it's time.
So it takes, you know, we built our kennel up to about 15 personal dogs.
Yeah.
And I had access to about another 30 to 40.
Oh, my God.
Access meaning people like Tracy, Jeff, Picards. I mean, like I said, I could go on and on and on about the people that have helped us out and believed in our mission.
Yeah.
And were there for us whenever we needed them. But you know, it's building a breeding program is it's a tough feat. And then unless you're looking at it, our main goal, so I'm just going to back up a little bit. You know, when we first got our couple of dogs, we got one of our first short hairs from Matt Earhart, and then we got our second one from Jim Reeser. And actually, those two dogs are dogs that we paired, and they were both great dogs. Honestly, I didn't know crap about breeding.
Yeah.
I didn't know crap about pedigrees. And then I started, we bred actually those two dogs in 1996. And then we produced actually several prize one utilities out of that breeding, and several VCs. I think there was like 3 or 4 VCs out of that breeding as well. And then I actually started using a couple of different programs and building a database. And right now I got like 20,000 short hairs in that database. Wow. Which isn't a lot, but I do have all of their information, you know, height, weights, you know, what their colors are, everything. I've got the breeder, the owners, all that in there. And I mean, there's other people that have a couple 100,000 in their database, but I'm putting in a lot of details in mine. Mm-hmm. And so I've used that program over all the years to build my generational pedigrees. And that's what I do. I consult probably 15 other breeders across the country. Yeah. I consult them on their breeding programs, and then quite a few amateurs as well.
You know, that's all in, number one, awesome. I don't have the self-discipline. I don't have to. I just come to you. Mm-hmm. You know, I go to my guy in the wire hair world, and I just trust him. Mm-hmm. And most of us will just do that. But we do need to have somebody like that. We need a godfather who has that data, who we can then put our trust in.
Right.
Ultimately, it boils down to picking a puppy. And if we got somebody we trust, we're looking at a whelping pen full of squirming puppies. And Marilyn, she described, I'll tell you a story off mic about the creative puppies who try to escape all the time. But there's more to it than that, isn't there? So take us to school on picking a puppy.
Okay. Well, and again, it backs up to trusting that breeder. And why do we trust that breeder?
There you go.
Why is this breeder producing consistent animals? Okay. So I'll be honest, when we did our first breeding, there was variances within the breeding, both in head type, conformation, and even a little bit on talent and performance. All right? So we want to, in our breeding programs, get to where we're producing a consistent animal. I will be honest with you, I would say 95% of my clients now, because most of my clientele now is repeat clients, they don't even pick their puppies.
Yeah.
They say, you know what I want, you know what I'm looking for, you pick the right litter, and then you pick the puppy for me. And that's where we've been very successful, is because of that trust.
And I do that too. And sometimes I get even a little bit of bonus out of that in one way or another. I'll tell you that story someday. But by the way, thanks, Jeff Funky. Jeff?
Jeff's a great guy.
Yeah.
Actually, I knew Jeff.
He's down there at that end.
Yeah, I talked to him yesterday for a while, and I'm going to try and talk to him more today. Jeff's a very knowledgeable guy. And in fact, his testing system, the VHDF, is, and there's a lot of people in the NAVHDA system that was using, I've been kind of using that. He uses a 10-point system, NAVHDA uses a 4, and I'm no longer a judge, but, there's so many judges that would do a 3- or a 3+, and should they graduate that way? I'm not going to say one. I have my opinions, and I don't want to get into that. But Jeff has developed a great system to build a hunting dog. I think sometimes we get so many people that are testing because they have to, or it's like the in thing, and so we're getting a lot of non-hunters that may be getting involved in that. So are we getting away from what we're truly looking for?
Boy, that is number one, a can of worms. Number two,
for sure.
Something to consider.
Yep.
I trust my breeder.
Yep.
He's mine. You're yours. What else are we looking for after that?
So the thing is the breeder has to really get to know the individual.
Yeah.
So let's just say I've got a sheet.
Yeah.
And so on that sheet is like, have you owned dogs before? What types of dogs? Flushing dog, pointing dogs, what is it? Okay, if you're used to flushing dogs and you're going to get awfully nervous about like say my Creed dog, he's a 300 to 500 yard dog because I love sharp tail, but yet if I drop into a cattail slough, he's going to adapt to cover. So for me, great dogs adapt to cover, but I want to get to know you.
Yeah.
What comfortable range in a dog are you looking for? Are you a 50 to 100 yard dog? Do you like a 100 to 200 yard? And that's where, okay, maybe my breeding's not right for you. So those are things we got to learn about you. Is the dog going to be in the house? Is it going to be a kennel dog? Also, too, what types of terrain do you hunt? Are you looking for more of a rough grouse dog or a prairie dog? And so we want to get all those answers. And then, do you have a family? Is the dog going to be on the couch, the furniture? So because all those things matter.
Yeah.
We don't want, if your dogs are going to be allowed on the furniture and they're going to be a part of the family, and you have kids and wives are going to be taking care of them, and I'm not saying wives can't handle dogs or kids can't handle dogs, because I could walk you right down, and you know who I'm talking about. I could walk you to an 11-year-old that has a VC, and she's phenomenal. So kids can be great if they're taught correctly. But if you don't want to give them an alpha dog, because then that alpha dog's going to walk all over them, and then they're going to have problems. They're not going to enjoy the dog. You're going to be getting phone calls. So having that long conversation with your client, if it's a new client, then you got to get all those notes and figure out what type of dog are they looking for. They may not want that dog that's crawling out of the whelping box first. Yeah. They may not want that dog you got to pull off of 2 or 3 because he's trying to be a bully and shake him up and say, knock it off.
Yeah.
That's not the right dog for them. that may be the dog they come and pick up because oh God, look at how cute he looks. Look at his markings. Man, he's white. I want a white dog. And nope, you want that liver roan one over there. That's your dog. So those are all the things that a good breeder should be doing. I've actually not allowed people to take a particular puppy.
Thank you, Clyde.
And they have. So I had a gentleman. I'll tell a quick story. He's been a long-term client now because we've built that trust. But he had one dog from us, put a versatile champion on it. He was looking for another one for a son of his, and he came over and he was doing his little tests. And I don't believe in some of that because I'm raising my puppies correctly. He didn't need to do that.
And what you mean is the turn the dog over, etc. All those little things. Games.
He said, "This is the one I want." And I said, "No, you want Hector over here."
Yeah.
He said, "No, I really want this dog." And I said, "Did you say I or your son?" I said, "Stop being selfish here." I said, "That's the puppy you want." I said, "Trust me." I said, "You will call me one day and thank me." And I said, "I will not sell you that puppy." I said, "You can leave. You can drive that 18 hours back home without a puppy." I said, "But that's the puppy you want right there." I said, "Trust me." I said, "Be good to your son. Take that puppy." And he ended up he listened to me. He trusted me, and he took Hector. And he called me up, and his son they fell in love. They were bonded forever, and that dog became a VC as well.
Wow.
They all can do it, but it's matching them temperaments. And we've raised over 70 litters, so we've had the great grandparents, the great on and on. We've had 8 generations of VCs, and we've owned all of them. So we've learned the dogs, we know the dogs, and so placing those puppies with them correctly is key.
Hey, I've taken away 2 things from this. Number one, if you don't have a psychology degree, you sound like you should. Maybe an honorary one.
You learn that when you become a dog trainer. That's all part of it.
And the other one is, hey everybody, if you trust your breeder. Be honest when he's asking all those questions. Do you really want a 500-yard dog? Well, I do. You do, and I'll see you out there next fall.
Yeah.
But you got to be honest about this stuff so that you get that dog. Now, Clyde, I don't want to keep you too long.
Oh, no worries.
Good. What about those other dogs in the whelping box? Why did you pick Hector for that guy, and why is the one that's trying to escape best for somebody else? We all know alpha and beta and all that, but what else is there in that?
Well, there's all the curiosity. Those puppies that are getting out of the whelping box earlier, the first ones that are crawling over all the others and pushing them away just to get to mom's teat. And there's all those things we look at and watch. They're generally the first to do everything. They're more the powerhouses, and that's if I got a guy that's looking for that dog that's a little more type A, that's going to be the dog for him. The gentleman that comes in and sits down and he just wants to bullshit a little bit, and he's just more of a no bullshit hunting dog kind of guy, then we're going to want that more laid back, easygoing dog that doesn't always have to be the center of attention, self-entertains, and that's the dog we're going to pair with that guy. Marilyn and I did a test once, and I'm talking about sharpshooter's hot rod here. And he was a faded liver roan dog. He had a solid liver head, but his body was about as gray can get. And we knew no one was going to pick him. We fell in love with him at about, early on, but about a 3-week mark, 4-week mark, man, we fell in love with him. He was and to this day, he is probably he's the dog. In fact, Marilyn and Jess, many times when we were out hunting and pounding the cattails, they'd say, you can't take, I'd go to open Rev's kennel, and they're like, no, you're not taking Rev again. Take that puppy over there, or take so-and-so. And I'm like, damn it. This dog he just hammers it every time. And my brother would take him. My dog would if I was sitting in the deer stand, my brother would go and take steal Rev, and he'd go bird hunting. He'd come back and he was like, man, that dog just did a 300-yard track and caught my wounded bird, because my brother was a terrible shot. But
we'll get along great.
Yeah, so we kind of left him in there, and everybody would come in and they'd be looking at the puppies, and they'd all, I'd really like this one and that one. And so then we'd talk about temperaments and all this, and no one ever picked poor Rev, and he was just kind of self-entertaining himself, doing his thing, picking up a toy, running around, and, so out of all the puppies in that litter, guess who was the last one?
Yeah.
Never even picked.
So you kept him.
Well, he wasn't going anywhere, even if somebody would have picked him.
Oh, really? So you picked him.
He was our pick of the litter right from the get-go, but no one picked him.
Wow.
And that's Rev, Sharpshooter's Hot Rod.
Great story, and absolutely one for the books in terms of the rest of us who are hoping, first off, to find a breeder we can trust, and then trusting that breeder to find the dog we need, which is different than the dog we want.
Just a couple of things I'd like to expand on, because I know we don't have a lot of time, and I'd love to do another one later. We can get much more in depth than this.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not even touching the iceberg, but look at breeders. So, for instance, you can go to Sharpshooter's Kennel website, and we're revamping that whole thing right now. We're going to have a new website up here in a couple of weeks, and then I'm just going to keep adding a bunch of new content to it. We're going to just do more of a huge database on what we've done and accomplishments. But look at, like, our Facebook pages and stuff. You'll see videos where we take so first of all, our puppies have a big area to play in, and then we have a area outside that they can go and play in, but we'll have stuffed animals everywhere, crunched up water bottles, chew toys, balls that they can push and roll. And then I've got actually a couple of stupid toys. I
have more than a couple.
I've got a teddy bear that used to have a string on it. It's got a big yellow ball underneath it, but it's a big, like, teddy bear. And when you pull it, it makes like these stupid bell noises and rolling noises and all that. And I took the string off, but I'll put it in there. When I see that they're ready for it, I'll put it in the pen for them. And it's kind of like a weeble wobble, and if they touch it, and then it makes this ding-dongy noise and kind of rolls, and they may back up just a little bit by 2 feet and look at it like, oh, what the heck was that? And then they'll go up to it, they'll push it again. Tell you what, within 3 days, one puppy's attacking it, then 3 or 4 are jumping on it. This thing's banging around all over, and all the puppies are chasing it.
Yeah.
What am I doing with that?
Yes.
What am I using that for?
That is, you are socializing those dogs to
what? To what? What am I bringing?
Gunfire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
During what process?
Play.
What are they're chasing this thing and jumping on it?
Oh, same. It's what we talk about 12 weeks later.
We're bringing out. So the other thing I do is I hang from the ceiling. I'll take these stuffed animals that, like giraffes and monkeys, that got these long tails and legs and stuff. You can see videos on our page where 3 or 4 puppies are pulling on this thing. They're doing tug of war on it. They're swinging around and all that. I'm bringing out that prey drive in that puppy at an early age.
Yeah.
And so I'm bringing out that prey drive, that wanting to chase something, wanting to attack it, but also they have it in their mouth, and I'm bringing out that retrieving instinct as well. So we have all these little stuffed animals, and you'll find one, he grabs it, he's running around, the other one's chasing it, and they're trying to, get it from the other one. But I'm building this retrieving instinct, and I'm bringing out their prey drive, and I do that at a very early age. I'm developing them mentally so much faster, and I've put in most of our kennels that we consult now, they're all doing the same thing. And they're like, holy cow, I can't believe the difference. And we could get into, like, I start Purina at 3 weeks, and the brain development as soon as I start Purina dog food is just incredible. I mean, we could get into so many stories about advantages that we can do in this, and we're just going to give people a taste of what's coming down the road for a massive podcast series about developing puppies, building brain development, building social development. I mean, I couldn't tell you I've never had somebody call me up and say, hey, my puppy's gun shy. Because we put in Tide bottles.
Yeah.
And so they jump on the Tide bottle, and it makes this little noise, and at 3 weeks they back up a little bit, but then they're jumping on, and pretty soon I got 6 puppies jumping on this Tide bottle. It's banging against the sides of the pen and everything, and the noise is nothing. But I don't walk in and, like, slowly close the door. I slam the door, and they just get used to all the noises, which makes them a more durable dog in the end.
I like that term, durable dog, and what I also like as a lazy person is, well, most of this stuff is happening without a lot of participation by me.
Correct.
These dogs are learning it themselves, and you're one of the many who will tell us that a dog needs to, in large part, learn by itself.
Yeah.
They need to teach themselves that this is the thing to do or this is the thing not to do.
Yeah.
They respond, they react,
Mm-hmm.
and you're giving them that opportunity over and over.
We like building a durable dog, and we
Yeah.
like building a forgiving dog, and we like building a mentally tough dog. So I've taken a lot of, people think, I hate the term soft. I hear people always say,
Yeah.
oh, my dog's soft, and I want to explode. Dogs aren't soft. They're created to be soft. I've taken a lot of what I would call maybe a little mentally weak dogs, and I've made them tough as nails.
Yeah.
You can do that. Shit, we do it in the military every day, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody sends their kid off just to make them tougher,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But, I've done it with dogs many times. But so a little quick story on that is, let's just say this couple walks in and they're going to look at these puppies at 6 weeks old because they just want to get a feel for them and look at them. And somebody will step on the puppy's toe and they pick it up right away. And I'm not going to say whether it's the wife or the dad because I've seen them all do it.
Oh, yeah.
They pick it up and they're like, oh, it's okay. They're petting it. It's okay. It's okay. And I'm like, put it down. And they're like, what? They look at me like, who are you? And I'm like, just put it down. I said, listen, the world is going to get a whole lot tougher. And I said, them sticker bushes in them brush piles and thornberries and them cactus in Arizona are going to be a heck of a lot worse. And I said, he needs to keep rolling with the punches. And I said, so just put him down. I said, let's watch him deal with it. And they put it down, and he may limp just a little bit because he stepped on his toe. And pretty soon he shakes it off, and he's off playing. I said, there. He dealt with it. And and it's like, unfortunately, we don't have more people doing that with their kids these days, right?
That's the subject for about 8 podcasts.
Yeah, exactly.
But not
yeah,
here.
Yeah. We will never solve that problem.
No.
But yeah, it's about building a dog that's and teaching him to deal with that is going to help me in my training letter because that dog's going to deal with correction so much better. He's going to, if we make a correction because he did something wrong, he's going to be, oh gosh, okay, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and he's going to move right on. So there's so many things that we do, and Marilyn's like a puppy raiser extraordinaire.
Yeah.
She's the key to all that. She's just been exceptional. And so Marilyn's our puppy raiser, and I get into the breeding and the data and the unique dog numbers. I don't even look at blood percentages anymore. I look at concentrations of genetics.
Yeah.
And like Keith Shoppy's doing a big article on us on that now too. But I'd like to someday too get into how we're looking at concentration of genetics to build a consistent animal. And that's why all these other kennels out there are hiring me. Because I had a gentleman in Canada, in fact, we're doing a seminar for him up there, but he's so excited to have me up there. He's bought a bunch of dogs from other breeders with our lines in it, and he's like, I'm not accomplishing what you are. I'm actually seeing dogs that you've bred, and mine aren't the same. They're different. I'm like, because those other people, while they may have my lines in it, they're still not. They're not what I'm breeding because I'm not consulting them, and I've just learned over the years how my dogs get bred together will produce a consistent animal. So he's come on board now. I'm developing his whole breeding program, and he's really actually been seeing the difference now, and he's just super happy. So there's a lot more that goes into that, and we can get into that someday if you guys like.
Oh yeah, speaking of a lot more.
I'm sure your listeners will tell you if they want to hear it or not.
Yeah. Well, hey, send me a note, everybody. You know how to do that. But we have scratched the surface on this whole idea, and it's constantly top of mind, certain times a year more than others. But heck, half of the people who are listening right now are thinking about a new dog. Mm-hmm. So it's always good to learn this stuff and to learn it from you and Marilyn both. Unbelievably useful. Clyde Vetter, Sharpshooters Kennels. If we want to learn more about your program, it is really just Sharpshooters Kennels. Kennel or Kennels?
Sharpshooters Kennel.
.com.
Yep, .com. And again, our website is a little antiquated, but we're putting a whole lot more data on there, and it's going to be fun, and it's getting upgraded. And I'm hoping within the next couple of weeks it should be up and running, and then I got tons of contact to put on there.
Well, it's always fun to talk with you. Always more fun to talk to you face-to-face like this.
Oh, it's so much better.
We're at the National Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic in Kansas City, Missouri, but we'll be talking again via telephonic communication, if nothing else. Clyde Vetter, thanks again for being part of the Upland Nation podcast.
Scott, thank you for everything you do and everything you do to build conservation and habitat and get people out there and enjoying what we love, because if we don't stay on top of it, we're going to lose it. So thank you so much, and thank you to all your listeners. I
You're
really
welcome.
Appreciate it.
And they are saying the same thing. Thank
All right.
you.
Have a great day.
And to fix it segment, we dig into the toy box. Yeah, stick around for all of that. Brought to you in part by PointerShotguns.com. You know, the second edition of their hard copy catalog for this year is now out. Take a look at all the info, including all the specs on that new semi-automatic, the FT12. You can order at their website. Go to PointerShotguns.com. In the upper left-hand corner in red, I'm told, order the catalog. Get that catalog, take a long look, browse through it, leave it on the coffee table. Take a look at all the choices for all the shotguns from PointerShotguns.com. And then when you're ready to buy, go to Bass Pro, Sportsman's Warehouse, Cabela's, or Turner's Outdoorsman and pick up your own Pointer shotgun. Learn more at PointerShotguns.com. Yeah, I told you we're going farther afield to work out with a little bit more mileage. Well, Flick is riding in his RuffLand Kennel when we do that. And believe me, there are some of the roads we're using where I wish I could ride in one as well. It protects him, keeps him safe. It's all part of that kind of travel system that RuffLand makes. It's involving, you know, the system includes food storage, water storage, dog bowls, gear storage. You name it, they've got it at RuffLandKennels.com. RUFF, RuffLandKennels.com. Well, Fix It this week is solving a problem that many of us have. Yes, of course, let birds train your dog is a great theory, and it works well when you do have birds. But when you don't have birds, what's the guy to do? Well, over the years, I've come up with a lot of things, and thank you, everybody. I asked that question a while back and thought it was fun, and it ended up being educational as well. If you're looking for some other training tools that might substitute for live birds, I've used everything over the years from sticks and rocks in the field to these items that you might consider as well, depending on where your dog is in its steadiness development. How about your hat? Lob that thing into the air while you're training steadiness, and it hits the ground, and hopefully the dog stays still. Also, a Frisbee. It flies a lot farther than your hat, and in a straight line. My go-to Frisbee substitute for a bird substitute are paper plates. Yeah, that way if the dog does pick one up, he's not putting holes in your favorite Frisbee. And finally, and I love this one, those wind-up balsa wood airplanes. You know, they got a rubber band. You wind up the propeller. They'll fly a long way and at the right speed, and you never know where they're going to go. So those things all fly away from a dog while the dog is supposed to stand still, and then they land while the dog is supposed to stand still. Yeah, the toy box can be a great source of training tools if you just think a little bit outside the toy box. All right, the Fix It segment this week, first off, brought to you by FurFeathersFriends.com. Our word of the week gets you entered to win a HiViz sight. It also makes you eligible to win that 4-pack of Pointer shotguns. Go to FurFeathersFriends.com, scroll down to the bottom, fill out the form, you're entered to win. You want to win that HiViz sight, you'll also add the word of the week. And this week, we're speaking Italian. Spinoni is the word of the week. Spinoni. No extra credit if you spell it correctly. Good luck. And we're brought to you also by TrulockChokes.com, precision made on state-of-the-art CNC equipment. In this day and age, how many times can you buy a product that is not only made in the USA, but made from raw materials from the USA? Well, that's what happens at TrulockChokes.com. Everything's made in Wickham, Georgia, from U.S. steel. That's why they can offer a lifetime warranty and a satisfaction guarantee. Check out the website for incentives, promotions, sales, and other ways to save a buck or gain some new gear. TrulockChokes.com. TruLock, TrulockChokes.com. Thanks so much for listening. Appreciate that. Thank you, Clyde and Marilyn Vetter, for your insights. Always great to see you. And what a great Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic. Good on you both. If you enjoyed the podcast, please tell somebody who's not listened before. And if you really liked it, please leave a rating or a review at Apple Podcasts. Thank you to our sponsors who make it all possible. RuffLand Dog Kennels, Purina Pro Plan Sport Dog Food, Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School, Trulock Choke Tubes, Pointer Shotguns, and Sage and Breaker Gun Care Products and HiViz Shooting Systems. Always something useful in the bi-weekly newsletter. Sign up at findbirdhuntingspots.com. Sure enjoyed talking with you. Thank you all for contributing to this discussion today. I'm Scott Linden. Thanks for listening to the Upland Nation Podcast.